Then we get to Lori's cross of Nancy. It was glorious, you guys. One of my favorite witness so far, Nancy Jo Hancock, the woman who had a date with Charles the night before he died. It is beautiful. It is awesome. She put Lori in her place, and oh my, it was delightful. You're going to want to watch this one. If you're new here, I am Annette Lyon, USA Today best-selling author of the suspense novel Just One More and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also award-winning author, former editor, whole bunch of other things. Here we discuss true crime often, but not always, where it intersects with religion. And then we have chocolate on the side because you gotta have something sweet in the middle of all the bitter. I have opinions. I rant. That's what we do here. We respect all faith traditions and those with no faith traditions. That includes my faith as well. A quick reminder to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and helps other people find this kind of content who would be interested in it. Ready? Let's go. So Nancy Jo Hancock she testified that she was a raised Latter-day Saint. She has 5 children, and I think she said 15 grandchildren. She quote unquote met Charles on an LDS dating app that they texted tons and tons, and over the course of about a week, lots of phone calls, including some that were several hours long, 2-3 hour long phone calls, several of them before they ever met. At this point, he was in Houston. And if you know some of the chronology, this is when this was July of 2019. So he who had been very concerned about Lori since, well, close to a year, but really since January, so at least 7 months, 8 months, was actively pursuing a divorce. Lori had up and vanished at one point for 72 days, pretty much to avoid being able to be served papers, but she didn't say that. But she doesn't like to say that they were getting a divorce. They had been separated. He was living in Houston. She was living in Arizona. She did not want him living in Arizona, so they were definitely separated. And yet she does not like to think that as her husband was on a date with anybody else. So it was pretty freaking hilarious. So Nancy Jo, first of all, she looks very different. She does not look anything like Lori. She's older, for one, closer to Charles's age. I think Lori and Charles had somewhere around 15 years age difference. But also Nancy Jo, in my opinion, is prettier. She looks a lot like Catherine Zeta-Jones. So she reminded me of. She has beautiful dark hair, and she just had a confidence about her. And you could tell she was uncomfortable being in front of Lori for obvious reasons. I would be too. She said that Charles was a talker. He was charming and funny and kind. That was the one thing that really jumped out at me, that Charles was just so kind. And she said many times how impressed she was that he spoke so kindly of Lori, because when you're dating divorced men, they usually talk trash about their exes. And he said that he still loved her, but he felt like he had lost her. And he wished her the best, especially when it came to being a mother to JJ, because he absolutely adored his son and worried about him. I thought that was just a class act. But then there's questions about, did she know much about his career? She said not a lot. That she didn't go into, that's not the thing she cared to learn much about when she's first dating somebody. It seemed to me that the state was being very careful not to enter into the waters of hearsay. So massive respect there. Lori, of course, was constantly trying to object to things. Almost nothing stuck. Did Charles tell you anything about Lori's beliefs that were beyond the scope of your religion and your faith? And she says, oh, a lot. Did you think that you and Charles were exclusive? And she goes, heavens no. Like, they first made contact a week before their first date, and then that was it. So no. And she said that, in fact, Charles had showed her messages that he had exchanged with another woman, I think on the same app, who had sent him some scantily clothed pictures and asked him for money. Like, this is ridiculous. So he's clearly texting other people. And she said that he seemed ecstatic. That's the word she used, ecstatic, to see JJ, like a kid on Christmas Eve. And he was looking for a place in the Phoenix Mesa area to live so that he could be close to his son. Because again, he was planning on the separation being permanent. After their date, they talked and talked and talked till the restaurant closed, and then they talked some more in the parking lot. she knew that he had plans the next day to take his son JJ to school, that he had an appointment, at least one, to look at a property to rent to live at. He was going to meet with Lori's brother Adam, and at some point he said he was going to call her, and then maybe they would meet up. Because again, he was flying in from Houston. It was just a chance to meet before he left. She waited for his phone call the next day or a text and never heard from him again. Just assumed he'd ghosted her. She's like, wow, I wonder if I really misread that. That's unfortunate. Oh well, and moved on with her life. Charles also told Nancy Jo that he had changed the beneficiary on his life insurance to his sister Kay. She knew that. I don't know if that was the day of the actual date or if that was in some of the conversations leading up to it. Doesn't matter to me. She learned about his death from the news and thought, oh my goodness, he was shot by his brother-in-law in the world. And then she had thought she deleted their texting thread because that's usually what she does after she stops dating someone, but she hadn't deleted it and it was still there. Then we get to Lori's cross of Nancy. It was glorious, you guys. She's like, we were not in the process of getting a divorce. And all Nancy Jo could say was, okay. She's not going to argue with Lori. Like, this is her understanding was this. Lori has a different understanding. No argument. What can I say? But then Lori literally goes, so you go on dates with married men? Nancy Jo's response to that was, well, if I'd realized how married he still was, I might have second guessed it. That, she thought the divorce was closer to being final or whatever. But she also said I wasn't like sleeping with him or anything like that. This is definitely nothing exclusive. This was not a big deal. Talk about the ultimate hypocrisy. Lori is just fuming that a woman had the audacity to speak to her husband on the phone and via text and have dinner with him while he was still married to her, while she's having an affair with Chad and has for about a year. This is July of 2019, and she and Chad met the previous, I think, October. Hey, pot, kettle's calling. You're having a full-fledged affair. The day you met Chad, Lori, the day you met him, you're making out with him. How dare you be all annoyed and incensed over Nancy Jo having dinner? Give me a break. So, you spent your whole date talking about me. Now watch what Nancy Jo said.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me?
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
Beautiful. Don't flatter yourself. There were several state objections while Lori's doing her cross, not nearly as often as they could have. Some said that they were badgering, hearsay. The judge sustained every one of them.
I'm sure he did.
Again, 611, harassment.
I'll sustain the objection for relevance and hearsay.
She continues to add commentary after her answers, even though Judge Bretsky warned her after court yesterday, the day before all of this, to stop doing that. And she's like, oh yeah, oops. Also, do men usually talk about their exes on dates? Jerky men will be like, oh, my ex is a psycho. But for Charles, he was talking about plans moving forward to take care of JJ, that he hoped Lori would be a good, kind mother, and so forth. And then again, Lori goes, really? Interesting. Oh, Judge Bretsky's going to be annoyed. Stop doing that. I like Nancy Jo. I really, really like her. Then, after a long sidebar, we hear the judge and tell her, outside of the jury's presence.
The last question the defendant asked of the witness was along the lines of, what things did you discuss about me, meaning the defendant? Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
what I recall, Your Honor.
Are you sure you wanted to answer that question? Because you're opening up a really big door. If you want her to answer the question, I'll have her answer the question.
How am I supposed to know what a lot of things are?
All right. If you want her to answer the question and there's no objection from the state, we'll
No
bring
objection.
the jury back in and have her answer the question. All right. Let's bring the jury in.
And I went, oh, yikes. But this is a train wreck I cannot look away from. But then we had a break. And then when court resumes, they move on. And suddenly Lori is asking Nancy Jo about any communication she had with Kay Woodcock, which is Charles's sister, the new beneficiary. Making it sound like it's somehow nefarious, which it was not. I wanted to know what happened in between there and what the question would have been. And I'm sure the judge was like trying so hard to make her not go there because he knew that if you open that door, all kinds of things are going to come through it. And information Lori does not want out. And again, got to protect the case so it can't be overturned. So he probably did the right thing, but I'm still so curious. I would love to know. Nancy Jo was then asked when she met Adam Cox, Lori's other brother. And she says that she crossed paths with him at a pickleball tournament of her grandsons, that she knew Adam was because she recognized his face, and because she had seen it in the media surrounding this case. They just exchanged very quick pleasantries, essentially. And then she goes, wait, okay, I'm remembering now there was one other contact I had with him. It was on a dating app. It was his face, his photograph being used, but it was a different name. And so she messaged that account thinking it was a catfish, saying you probably should use a different picture if you're going to come on here. But now it sounds like it might have actually been Adam and he was using a different name to maybe separate himself from the whole story. But when she was honest, saying, look, I forgot that this other thing happened. Probably honestly because she thought it wasn't actually Adam. That's my thought. That's my theory. But instead of jumping on it as a defense attorney would, Lori jumped on it with saying, do you know what perjury is? And then immediately, of course, the state objects and it's sustained. And that did not make Lori look good. It was a bad look. It was a very bad look. Then Lori asks, have you met Brandon Boudreaux? Which, again, why is that relevant to this case? Nancy Jo says, I've seen him in person. Apparently they were the same. I think her daughter had some event, like a church thingy or activity of neighbors who came over or something like that. And her mom was there too. And Nancy Jo says that she saw Brandon, but she didn't ever talk to him. Well, how do you know it was him then? It's just my daughter told me. Well, how did you know the relationship? And she's like, I didn't have to be told. I knew the story because it's been in the news. All she had to tell me is that was Brandon Boudreaux. And then Lori pressed further and she's like, I know that he was married to your niece. Okay, that's all I wanted to know was just the relationship. So she's commenting again after, stop it. Did Charles tell you that I didn't know he was on dating apps? So again, we're clutching our pearls. And so he said, well, he was under the impression that you were having an affair. I love Nancy Jo. She's awesome.
So would it be fair to say that you knew my husband for a week?
Approximately.
Okay. And then you had no contact with Charles after that, correct?
Well, he was dead, so clearly I didn't have contact with him.
Okay.
Lori tried to repeat a bunch of crap, go over the timeline again, and Nancy Jo just kept sticking to her the same story.
And it wasn't until you saw that he had passed away on the news that you reached out to anyone, is that correct?
Correct. I didn't know he was dead.
And that was about 6 months later? Is that correct?
I believe it was December, so July to December is 5 months, I believe.
Okay.
Lori just did not handle it well. You could tell that she was pissed at Nancy Jo, that she was so mad.
So at the 5 months later that you said in December, after that is when you contacted Kay Woodcock?
To express my condolences for her brother passing away and wanted to let her know that I had had dinner with him that last night and how much he loved JJ and how excited he was to see him the next morning. And just...
Thank you. That's enough.
I think her emotions took over and she couldn't think logically, and it did not go well. We had one juror question that came through, and that was, did Charles show any indications verbally of stress or worry about his life on the date? And she couldn't elaborate. She was only allowed to say yes or no, and she said yes. One fun thing that I think I failed to mention with firefighter Cowan when Lori was trying to say, well, how often have you told people this story? I'm just trying to get a feel for it. Have you told the media? Have you told this? Have you read your reports? How many times? And he casually mentioned, answering her question, that he had read his report in preparation for this trial, as well as for the one in Idaho. Oops. Jury, did you catch that? There was a trial in Idaho that this guy came from Arizona all the way up to Idaho to testify about. Something to do with this case. I so hope some of these things come in more because I love these flubs. Let me know what you think about this whole thing and where you think Lori's defense is going, how you think the prosecution's doing. I'm amazed it's just Trina K, just one person. Like, holy cow, that's amazing to me, especially after watching the huge team in Idaho. That's just amazing to me. While you're in the comments, leave some chocolate emojis or your comfort food of choice. And while you're down there, also subscribe if you're new. I'm really hoping to hit 6,000 subscribers while we're in the middle of the Daybell trial. And until next time, go get yourself some chocolate because I know I'm going to.